I've tested several mobile gaming controllers on this channel, and today we're going to test out another one. This is the TiSHORE Q13 mobile game controller for iOS. So let's get right into this. Hey everybody, it's Chris from FamilyGeekery, and today we are going to look at the TiSHORE Q13 mobile game controller. This is a Bluetooth controller that you snap onto your iOS device and use it to play games. So like I said, I've tested out several of these. This one's a little bit cheaper than some of the competition, so I wanted to see how well this thing works, what the build quality is, what the features are, and most importantly, how well it plays games. So let's go ahead and open this thing up and check it out. And actually, before I open it up, I always like to look at the box and look to see all the things that it says about it, what the marketing information is, and then see if that matches how it actually works. So it says compatible with leading cloud gaming, I believe that. With telescopic stand, so obviously looks like it's gonna pull apart and snap onto your phone. Compatible with Steam Link, compatible with iOS, and 4 configurable buttons. And it looks like we got 4 different color choices. This one should be blue. So let's take a look at the back real quick. And we can see it's got plenty of buttons on it, and then even on the right hand side you can see it's got those M1, M2, M3, M4 buttons. That looks like those are going to be the ones that you can configure. So like back buttons that are popular on modern gaming systems today. And it looks like we got both a trigger and a shoulder button on each side. We've got 2 joysticks, a D-pad, a couple buttons, the A, B, X, Y buttons, and then a power switch and a charging interface. So let's look at the product features here. Ergonomic, flexible design for comfortable handheld grip. We'll have to test that out. Adjustable design can be adjusted from 5.2 to 6.69 inches. M button for mapping 4 configurable back buttons. Bluetooth wireless connection. Compatible with iOS, MFI, Apple Arcade, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, GeForce Now, and Steam Link. Those are basically all the important ones that you'd want. And then the LED of the buttons can be turned off. So now that we know what it's supposed to do and what it's supposed to look like, let's go ahead and get it open. Alright, check it out. It comes with a little carrying case. Not too bad. This is kind of like a pseudo leather type case. So let's go ahead and unzip this and check it out. Oh, two-tone blue. So we've got 2 different blues on there. And looks like we've got a charging cable up here. And let's take a look at that. USB-A to USB-C. So that's nice. I like USB-C on as many things as I can for charging these days. And it looks like a nice braided cable. So that's nice. We've got an instruction manual here. I'll take a look at that off camera and make sure I understand how everything works. And then here is the controller itself. And a little keeper here to keep it from sliding around, although it does look like it's pretty form-fitted that it wouldn't go too far if you just zipped it up. So I think that's probably the better way to do it, so you don't have to pull it out and yank on the joysticks any. But let's go ahead and take a look at the build quality here. And it's obviously plastic, 2-tone plastic. We've got some decent joysticks here. So they're not going to be as nice as maybe like an Xbox controller, a little bit smaller than that. But they feel nicer than like a Joy-Con from a Switch. Some clicky shoulder buttons and clicky triggers. So obviously not analog triggers, but I don't know how many games on your iOS device would require that anyways. And here's the D-pad. Instead of using like a real D-pad, it's got 4 directional buttons. Which if you're just navigating menus and stuff, that's going to be fine. But if you're going to try to play some fighting games, obviously that's not the way to go. And these are the little, looks like power button and select button. Over here we've got STA and M. That's going to be for, I guess, programming these buttons on the back. And then here is the face buttons, the A, B, X, Y. They're a little small, but they've got a decent click to them. And ergonomically, if you're using a 2 joystick game, then this is going to be fine with your triggers. if you're playing the game with left joystick and then these, then it's going to be a little bit of a reach to get down here, but it's not too horrible. And then the M1, 2, 3, 4 buttons, they're about right where I'd expect them to be able to push them as you're holding on here. So not too bad. Looks like it's got a decent expansion to it. And it's not too strong, and it's not too weak, so it has a pretty good feel to the spring inside there. So let's go ahead and see if this thing's got any charge, and let's get it hooked up to a phone. Alright, so to test this out, I've got my trusty iPhone 8 Plus, and this is an older phone of mine that I use for testing these types of devices. It's going to play plenty of games, do some cloud gaming with it. But I've got to go ahead and I went ahead and paired it up, and I like the fact that these front buttons here do glow. So this must be what the box was talking about, how you can turn the LED lights off. But that's nice. It's easy to read the A, B, X, Y. It's easy to see these left, right, up, down buttons. So that's actually a really nice touch. And I've got color indicators on both sides that tell you if it's connected, if it's charging, if it's fully charged, if the battery's low. So the book goes through all the different color combinations of those. And when it syncs up, it actually shows up as a DualShock 4 wireless controller. So it sees it as like a PlayStation controller. So that's going to be good as far as like compatibility wise for any games that understand a DualShock controller. So it is a little different because the DualShock controller would normally have your triangle and your X and that kind of stuff. And we've clearly got A, B, X, Y buttons on here. So it'll be interesting to see if any of the games try to show different icons, but I think it'll be alright. So let's go ahead and get this phone put in this device here, and let's play a game. Alright, we're starting off with an Apple Arcade game. This is Shovel Knight, and putting the phone in here was actually pretty nice. It's got a little shelf here that holds it so that you know that it's exactly, parallel. There's plenty of room to put a bigger phone in there, so it's got another, I don't know, half an inch or so to go before I would be considered it was too big. So I think you got at least all the current iOS devices would be fine in this. And this thumbstick here feels really good. The buttons feel fine. I don't know anything about this game, but I always use it to test it. I don't really know what I'm doing with it, but just want to make sure that you can move around easily and hit different buttons, smash things, and just look like a fool, I guess. So ergonomic wise, to reach these buttons, like I thought, I am coming off of, like, if this was the normal grip here, I am bringing my hand down a little bit on this right grip to get to these buttons. So if it was a first-person shooter, it would feel perfect. But for a game like this, where you're using the face buttons, then it does feel like I'm reaching to get to these buttons. It's not horrible, it's just a matter of how you plan on holding on to it. I like that these other buttons, the start and the memory buttons here, the select, they are recessed a little bit so you can't accidentally hit them with your thumb. And that's what the STA stands for. I feel silly for not knowing that before, but the STA is the start button, and then we've got the select button over here. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into maybe a cloud gaming choice. Alright, so testing out some Xbox Game Pass, and this is a streaming game, so I'm streaming it from the cloud, not from a device in my house, and playing some Forza 5. And I like to test this one out just to test the responsiveness of the controls. Now the controls are lagged a tiny bit because it is a cloud game. I would say that of all the devices I've tested, I'm not noticing any more lag than what I'm normally testing. And I've tested devices that plug right into the lightning port, whereas this one is Bluetooth. So I was expecting a little bit more lag than maybe a lightning port one, but it's not horrible. I think the main culprit is the cloud service itself, which, depending on what kind of game you're playing, may be a bad thing, a real bad thing. But for something like this, you just kind of get used to, leading the curves a little bit with your steering. So it's not bad at all. This is, again, now that I'm playing with the trigger button here, the triggers for your gas and your brake, and mainly just a one steering type configuration on your left stick, then this is a lot more comfortable in the hands. It feels completely normal, just like a regular controller. And the only other thing I'd like to note is that this is obviously not an analog trigger. So for a racing game, you may want to be able to control the acceleration and the braking a little bit, but in this case, it's all or nothing, which is common for a lot of controllers that don't have analog triggers. That's just something that you get used to also. But yeah, this is definitely a comfortable controller in the hands for this type of game, and it's playing just fine. Let's maybe test out a Steam Link game. Alright, so here we've got a Steam Link set up to Dreamlight Valley, and this is a game I've been playing a pretty good amount on a Steam Deck lately. And the first thing I notice is the screen size is so much smaller than the Steam Deck, and it's not even using the full phone. Now that's obviously not the problem of the controller. Maybe a setting I've got wrong here. This is really the first game I've tested for a while with this Steam Link. But as far as the controller goes, you can see I'm controlling just fine. Now this game is more like a first-person or third-person game where you're using both the thumbsticks. So this is a good configuration for that. But you do use the face buttons and the directional pad for a lot of stuff. So you'd almost have to take your hands completely down to here for that, but it's not too bad on the face buttons. Again, just shifting your thumb down and reaching, not too bad. For these guys, you have to take your finger pretty far down to get to them, but that's fine. You don't use these as often, but you will get into the face buttons every now and then. But overall, it feels fine. The triggers work good for this type of thing, and I did test in some of the menus that the shoulder buttons also work just fine. So yeah, other than the tiny screen, which again is not the fault of the controller, you can see now that I'm playing streaming off of my local computer, which is literally feet away from me right now, and I've got a high speed Wi-Fi that there is like no lag at all. So that's good for the fact that this is a Bluetooth controller. Yeah, I'd consider this a win for this type of game. So when I first looked at this, I was curious about the choice of having this lip way up high and then this one low, and it made perfect sense once I actually looked at it and saw that this gives you access to your volume buttons. So that is pretty smart. Overall, the device is easy to connect and disconnect. Pressing the power button for a couple seconds turns it on and starts it syncing, and then pressing the button for 5 seconds turns it back off once it is attached. So that's can't get any easier than that. Now comparing this up against something like the Backbone, which is an iOS device, I like these thumbsticks better than the Backbone. The Backbone has smaller ones, almost like a switch, not quite as high off the face. So I like these a little bit better. But the buttons I do like better on the Backbone. And then the other thing is, this is really a preference thing, but the orientation of where these are, or the choice of having this right stick up top and then the face buttons down below, I think purely from a design standpoint, this does look a lot more symmetrical, but just about every controller that you're going to be replacing with it has, the right stick down here and then the face buttons up above. So that is one thing I would change about this, is flipping these two around, having the thumbstick down here and the face buttons up here. I think ergonomically that would be a little bit better, but it wasn't horrible. It wasn't like a deal breaker or anything having the face buttons down here. So let's go ahead and wrap this video up with some quick thoughts about the controller itself. And let's go over some pros and cons. As far as the pros go, bang for the buck, I think it's a real good deal. I got this for a pretty decent deal on Amazon, and as far as all the features that it comes with, I think it's well worth the money. It's nice that it has the case. It's got plenty of buttons to configure. I didn't test out the M buttons, but I trust that they work just fine. The joysticks do feel nice. They feel good. The face buttons, they could be a little bit higher quality, but they did just fine. I didn't have any problems pushing them, and it's pretty lightweight for what it is. So if it wasn't for the case, this thing would be really lightweight. Once you get it in the case, then it feels about what I'd expect it to feel like weight-wise. So again, nice touch to have a case with a little pocket for the charging cable or for anything else that you need to carry with it. And overall, really nice. The one downside that I do have, and I've mentioned it a couple times so far, is just the ergonomics of where these are. And again, that's going to be a debatable thing for years and years and years to come, is where do you put the joysticks and where do you put the face buttons on a controller. And like I said, it's not a deal breaker. It's just something that my big hands could have done a little bit better with if they were flipped around. So that is going to wrap it up for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to check this TiSHORE Q13 out, I will leave a link down in the description below. If you go check it out on Amazon and decide to purchase it, it does help out the channel, so thank you for that. If not, then I do thank you for watching the video. If you liked it, if you got some good information out of it, I do appreciate the thumbs up because that helps the channel too. If you want to see more controller reviews, I do have a whole playlist on the channel here of all the different controller reviews I've done, so go check that out. If you want to see more stuff like this, then of course hit that subscribe button. But thank you as always for watching, and until next time, peace out and geek out.